What grade did you guys start band? Fifth grade? See, I started in sixth grade. So I almost said sixth grade. So imagine it's fifth grade, okay? And you're like auditioning for your instrument or whatever. This can go a whole bunch of different ways. It could be when you guys do like chair tests and stuff. Imagine you're auditioning for something band related, and you've been practicing your instrument for months, and you have been you got your music and you're practicing and you're nailing it. You're doing good. You know your piece perfectly, and you're so confident and you're ready to go. That's a good feeling, right? Okay. When you go to play sports and you're like, hey, this year I think I want to go play safety, and you've been working hard all summer and you're able to go do that, like you're ready to do that, that feels pretty good, right? Okay. So you walk in, we're going back to the band thing. If you walk into, wherever you're doing your audition and you panic. Okay, panicking is not good. None of us like to panic. So you see everybody else who's kind of auditioning and you said, you know what? I know that I'm here. I know that I've practiced my piece on the clarinet all summer long. But you know what this band really needs? They need another percussionist. Okay? I know you guys got a ton. Okay, but just imagine, right? All of that time and preparation just to get to your audition and say, you know what? I'm not going to do the audition on clarinet. I'm going to do it on, the bass drum or the snare drum, whatever your percussion instrument of choosing is, right? Imagine if you did that. So you start playing the drums, something you've probably never played before, and you try to perform your clarinet piece on the drums. Sounds ridiculous, right? It's not a good idea. How do you guys think the audition would go? Okay? Okay, if you are an O lineman and you practice all summer to be an O lineman and you show up to camp and you're like, hey, I'm going to play quarterback. Right? That's not a good idea, right? How do you think that's going to go? It's going to be awesome. You're going to get hit so many times. Okay? That's exactly what so many of us do every single day. Okay? God has given us all these different gifts. All of us have different personalities. All of us have different ways that we see the world. Okay? It's like, it's just like playing the clarinet. If you do it well, it sounds great. Okay? But what we do is oftentimes we take these things that God has given us, our gifts and our personality, and we start to compare it to others instead. So instead of focusing on what we should be trying to do with the gifts that God has given us, we decide to go over to the little percussion section and start banging on drums for the first time. Okay? It's not a good thing. And it's something that has been going on since the beginning of time, right? How many of you guys know the story of Cain and Abel? Okay, so basically what happens is Cain and Abel, they both are bringing an offering to God. Okay, and they both prepare some things for God, and God accepts Abel's offering, but he doesn't accept Cain's. Okay, so what happens is Cain starts comparing himself to his brother, and eventually it has spiraled so far that he kills his brother. Right? He had spent so long comparing himself to his brother that it led to him murdering his brother. So you think after we hear a story like that and we see the results of what happens when we constantly compare ourselves to somebody else, that we would quit doing that. Right? Not saying you're going to murder somebody. Hopefully not. Don't do that. Okay? But the point in that is that it is bad when we compare ourselves to other people, because God had wired us all differently, right? And there's a purpose and there's a plan in that. And that's what we're going to read about tonight. So those of you guys who don't have a physical Bible, hurry up, go grab one. You guys can share if you want. If you guys already grabbed one, great. We're going to be in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 4. We're going to start in 4 through 6, and then we're going to go 7 through 11 here in a little bit. So 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 4. It will be on the screen. As you guys kind of... I was going to say scroll, but we don't do that. As you guys turn there. And so it says, there are different kinds of spiritual gifts, but the same Spirit is the source of them all. There are different kinds of service, but we serve the same Lord. God works in different ways, but it is the same God who does the work in all of us. Okay, and so we're, First Corinthians here. We are talking about the church in Corinth. We're talking about the Corinthian church, okay? And the Corinthian church needed to be reminded that they are on the same team, okay? That they are working together. They're not working against each other, that they are going to have to work together. Okay, and so here's what happened. The Corinthian church started taking their gifts that God had given, their spiritual gifts. And we're going to talk about this tonight, but spiritual gifts that God has given us, they're all important. They're all equal. Okay, there is a reason why God gave you a certain gift, and we're going to get to that later. But the church in Corinth had decided that instead of saying, hey, your gift is as important as mine, they would start to compare. Right? Well, my gift's more important than yours. Right? Those of you guys who took the spiritual gift test, raise your hand if you got helper. Okay? Good little majority of you guys. Okay? What if I told you now that, you know what? Since I got shepherd, that's more important than a helper. Okay? Like, one, so rude of me. Okay? But second of all, it's not true. Okay, because there's not a hierarchy in this. Right? There's no hierarchy between anything as when it comes to spiritual gifts. And so this church in Corinth is needing this reminder from Paul to basically tell them to knock it off. Okay, right? To tell them, hey, you don't need to compare your gifts. Right? It's good that you talk about them, because when you talk about them, you can talk about how they can work together. Right? That's the cool thing about spiritual gifts, is that they work together, and we're going to get there here in a little bit. So Paul is writing this to tell them to knock it off, right? God made you guys different on purpose. If we were all made the same way, we wouldn't get near as much done. We wouldn't be able to get a lot of things accomplished, and it would be really messy. So there's importance in the gifts that God has given everybody. And so in verse 7, he goes on to say, the spiritual gift is given to each of us so that we can help each other. To one person, the Spirit gives the ability to give wise advice. To another, the same Spirit gives a message of special knowledge. The same Spirit gives great faith to another, and to someone else, the one Spirit gives the gift of healing. He gives one person the power to perform miracles, and another the ability to prophesy. He gives someone else the ability to discern whether a message is from the Spirit of God or from another spirit. Still another person is given the ability to speak in unknown languages, while another is given the ability to interpret what is being said. It is the one and only Spirit who distributes all these gifts. He alone decides which gift each person should have. Okay? And so Paul knew basically where this church was going to end up if they kept comparing to each other. Right? Not in a good place. Right? We talk about Cain and Abel. Bare minimum, it's going to cause tension. It's going to cause problems. It's hard for a church to operate when we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people. And so it's the same place that we usually end up when we compare ourselves to other people. And so, God designed the church. God designed us specifically. He designed us intentionally. The gifts that he has given you. Okay, they're not random. He didn't just roll a dice and say, well, this person gets this and this person gets this. Okay, that's not accidental. It's all for a reason. And it's definitely not inferior to somebody else's gift. Right? The gift that you were given is not inferior to somebody else's. Okay, and so our first point for tonight is God has wired us each differently, and that is a good thing. Okay, so Paul rattles off this list of gifts, and there's a lot. If you search kind of spiritual gifts in the Bible, you'll find a lot of different ones. And the test that you guys took, or that you guys will take, there's a chance that there's a little bit more to your spiritual gift than what was given. Okay, there are hundreds of spiritual gifts tests you guys can take online. Some of them, like the one that we are taking, is 10 questions. Okay, you guys can take a spiritual gifts test that's 70 questions. You can take one that's 30 questions, 50 questions. Okay, usually the more questions that they have, the more they're kind of able to get a little more particular about what you're better at and how you can use your gifts, okay? But Paul rattles off this list of gifts, and also, you most likely have more than one spiritual gift, okay? The main point of this series is for us to open that door, find the main one, and then I highly encourage you guys, I'm happy to go find one for you, but to take another spiritual gifts test that lists out, the order. There's a lot of spiritual gifts, and Paul rattles them off. He mentions wisdom, knowledge, faith, healing, miracles, prophecy, discernment, and even speaking and interpreting unknown languages. Okay, a lot of different things there. A lot of, I don't think, did anybody else get speaking and interpreting unknown languages? Okay. Once again, that's not something that like you're probably going to get on this test. Okay, no, this could happen to you one day. It could be one of your spiritual gifts. Another good thing, this is totally off script here. One thing that I do like about spiritual gifts, and I want to make this clear, is that like sometimes your spiritual gifts are just for a certain season of your life. Okay. For this season of your life, you might be, those of you guys, I like using the helper. It's the easiest one for me to remember. For this season of your life, where you're at, right, God might want you to be a helper. Okay. But God could also be growing you to be an encourager, like a shepherd, right? Somebody who leads people, right? Or there could be a season in your life to where your spiritual gift is, the administrative one. Okay, I forgot what. Did anybody get that one? Rebecca did, so you guys can point at her. There are times in our life to where God is going to give us spiritual gifts just for that season, and that's okay. Okay, there are going to be spiritual gifts that you have your entire life that you will always use, and those are ingrained in you at all times. But there are also gifts that God has given you, and they're for certain seasons, they're for short times. Okay, and so Paul, he gives these spiritual gifts, and he doesn't rank them. He doesn't say which one's better. He doesn't say everybody should have the same gift. It kind of looks like that God looked at the church, and he decided that we need a bunch of different people who are good at a bunch of different things. Okay? Think about this for a second. If everybody in your friend group had the same personality, how fun would that be? You'd get so sick and tired of them so fast. I couldn't listen to myself every day like that. That'd be terrible. Okay? Right, we all need a friend who makes people laugh. We all need a friend who, always knows what to say when somebody's upset. We always need somebody who's going to take things a little more serious. We all need a friend who's good at remembering things. Right? But when everybody brings something different to the table, it makes your group stronger. Okay? So when God created you, when God created, we talk about the church, we talk about everybody in the church, there was no accidental, there was no, like I said, there was no just rolling the dice and seeing what happens. God intentionally gave you your spiritual gift to work together with other people that you were going to be around your entire life. Okay? Second point for us tonight is we don't get to pick how we're wired, but that's also a good thing. That last verse of that passage, it says, is the one and only Spirit who distributes all these gifts. He alone decides which gift each person should have. Okay? So this isn't just like a menu. Okay? This isn't just like a drive-through where you just pull up and you're like, I would like this, and this. Okay? Because that'd be weird. Okay? Ultimately, God chooses our gifts, okay? And so maybe you guys wish that you are good at something that you're not, okay? I think we all been there. We see people and they're good at something and we're like, man, I wish I could do that. Right? And you might say that a lot. Whether you believe it or not, people say that about you too, right? It's this comparison game that we play. The reason why God did not give you a certain gift and gave it to somebody else is because God knows you better than you know yourself. Right? God's the one who created you. He knows how many, follicles of hair are on your head. You don't. Haha. You can make a joke about how I don't have as many anymore, and it's fine. Some of you guys are thinking it. I know. Nice. Right? God knows you better than you know yourself. And that is the reason why God ultimately is the one that we have to look to in these times Where when we see other people and we see that the gifts that they have, we have to remember that we are not that person and we are who God created us to be. Okay? Ultimately, God knows us better than we know ourselves. This is a verse, Psalm 139. It says, "O Lord, you have examined my heart and know everything about me. You know when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts even when I'm far away. You see me when I travel and when I rest at home. You know everything I do. You know what I'm going to say even before I say it, Lord." So God knows exactly what the world needs from you and what gifts it's going to take to make that happen and make a big difference. God knows everything that's happening in the world. He knows the things that we know. He knows the things we don't know. He knows what's going to happen. He knows what's happened. And he put you here with your gifts for a purpose throughout all of that. All right, so when we look at other people and we're like, hey, I just really wish I could do that. I wish that was a gift that I had. Okay, your gift that you have is just as important as theirs because they work together. Right? If we all got to pick our own gifts, what would happen if we all picked the same one? Okay? Sports guys, girls, whatever. Whatever sport that you play, imagine that everybody picked the same position. Right? Football players, everybody shows up and they're like, hey, I'm going to be a quarterback. Okay, first of all, that's funny because that does happen sometimes. A lot of people are like, I'm going to do that. But there's nobody to block for the quarterback. There's nobody to catch the ball that the quarterback's throwing. There's nobody for the quarterback to hand the ball off to. And then you have nobody to play defense. Right? That's a problem. Right? You guys audition for band and you guys all decide you guys are going to play trombone because you're smart people and you decide to do that. A band full of trombones would be kind of cool, but you're lacking a lot of different pieces. What happens if we have a bunch of teachers and yet there's nobody willing to learn? Or what if we have a lot of really good, effective leaders, but there's nobody to follow? It's not effective. Okay, teachers need people who are willing to learn. Leaders need people who are willing to follow and help. We need people who are going to see things through even when it gets hard. We need people who are going to encourage other people when times get hard. God has given you an exact gift that he wants you to have because he has a specific plan on how you're going to use it in your life. So instead of comparing our gifts to other people and saying, I wish I had their gift, what if we got excited about discovering the amazing things that we can do with the gifts that God has given us? What if we take that time that we spend comparing ourselves to other people and we spent our time using our gifts to further the glory of God? So our action points for tonight, they're actually quite simple. We're going to do them tonight. Okay, the first thing is we're going to take the spiritual gifts quiz. Okay, and here's the thing. Sometimes we need a little help identifying what we're good at. Because sometimes what we're good at is so natural to us that we don't even realize that we're good at it. Like we do it without thinking. So there's a spiritual gifts quiz that was created. Some of you guys have already taken it. The rest of you guys will take it during small group tonight. Small group leaders, there's a QR code on your small group questions. Anybody who hasn't taken it, just have them scan that QR code. And if they don't have a phone, if you're okay with it, let them use yours. If not, then we got iPads and stuff around here. We'll figure it out. Okay. So 10 questions, and I want you guys, if you guys haven't taken it, when you take it, I want you to take your time. And at the end of the quiz, it's going to give you a little quick snapshot of what your spiritual gifts might be. Okay? You might be like, oh, that's obvious. I already knew that. Or you might be like, hey, guess what? This is like crazy to me. I had no idea. Okay? This quiz isn't going to tell you exactly what your calling is for the rest of your life. Okay? Remember, there are some spiritual gifts that God gives you for a season, and that's okay. Think of it more kind of like a compass. Okay? Compasses point to where you're kind of needing to go. It's going to point you in the right direction. What you do with it is up to you. Right? It's your job to explore. Okay? Those of you, and if I talk about the quiz and you're like, hey, I need to retake it, feel free. But I want you guys to take the quiz honestly. Okay? Don't answer based on what you think you should be good at or what you want to be good at or what gifts you wish you had. Answer what is true about you. Okay? Think about what comes naturally to you, things that energize you instead of drain you. Okay? Some of you guys hear this word quiz and you get a little anxious. Okay? There's no right or wrong answers. Okay? I want you guys to approach this more with a curious mindset rather than anxiety. Okay? You're not trying to prove anything. You're not trying to live to a certain expectation. You're simply trying to discover how God has wired you. Okay? And then once you guys are done in your small groups taking that test, you guys are going to go around and share your results with your small group. Okay, you guys are going to talk about, whatever you got. You'll get a chance to kind of talk about, to kind of affirm each other. Like, oh, you got the helper. I could totally see that, and here's why. Right? Use it as a chance to build each other up. Okay? We talked about this last week, but even sometimes the people around us are better at seeing our gifts than we can ourselves. Okay? So this quiz that we're taking is a starting point. It's not the final word on how God has gifted you, right? It's going to change. It's good to always kind of stay, your answers are going to change sometimes, and that's okay. So tonight, that's what we're going to kind of do with the rest of our time. We're going to, once again, we're going to leave plenty of time tonight for us to address our spiritual gifts. Okay, it's important that we're using the gifts that God has given us. As we talked about last week, right? We want to use those gifts to help people and bring glory to God.